deadlift. Think about it as a hinge movement where you're pressing your sit bones to the wall behind you. As you press the sit bones to the wall behind you, inevitably the weight is going to drop in front of your legs. As long as you keep strong integrity and vertical integrity with your core. So think about engaging your six-pack abs, engaging your upper back, shoulders down and back in a proud chest-like position. As you bring those sit bones back, go as far back as you can. That's when you can start to bend at the knee to continue that deadlift, to bring those weights further towards the ground. And then you're going to come out of that flexion position into a fully extended position, back up to standing.
The most important thing is to match the hinge with that extension of the bell. So let's not worry so much about how high that bell goes. The main purpose is to load the hinge and get into that hip extension at the top of the position as explosively as possible. So the best cue you can think of is standing up tall as you can, as fast as you can. When you stand up tall, that's going to help you engage your entire core as you get into that posterior tilt, so you can engage your glutes, engage your hamstrings, engage your anterior core. Everything is going to be nice and tight. So that way, as you go back into the hinge, we can avoid loading the lower back as much as possible.
You're going to be holding with the kettlebell on top of the forearm and then the handles around your hands. And then you're overhead pressing. So think about holding those kettlebells in a rack position. And then you're going to sort of bring your elbows out, open up your chest, bring those shoulders down and back. Think proud chest and squeeze the scapula or the shoulder blades in the back together. As you do that, that creates a strong, stable surface. If you need to, you can bend the knees a little bit, bend the hips a little bit, engage the abs. You want a strong vertical core and a strong, stable lower body. As you then press those kettlebells up overhead, you're gonna press fully extended and then come all the way back down to that rack position. You're gonna do a double kettlebell clean, which can be done inside of the leg, and most people don't know this, it can also be done outside of the leg. Whatever you feel most comfortable with, you're gonna come up into that clean position. From that front rack, you're then going to do a double kettlebell overhead press. So again, think about engaging the abs so you don't have undue strain and pain in your lower back, or so that you're not dumping the load into your lower back, as we like to say. So you're gonna bend the knees slightly, bend the hips slightly, keep the abs nice and engaged, and then press to your functional range of motion up overhead, and then come all the way back down, cast, and continue that movement. One of my favorite and most simple movements to do with the kettlebell, you're holding those kettlebells down at your sides with your arms fully extended, and then you're walking. You can walk forward, you can march in place, you can walk backward, you can walk laterally, you could do any sort of movement, or you could just stand there in a suitcase type carry position or farmer carry position. Just standing there holding those kettlebells is going to work on grip, it's going to work on vertical core integrity, shoulder engagement. Think about keeping your shoulders down and back and your chest nice and proud, your spine nice and long out the top of your head with your head up, crown of the head driving towards the ceiling, and eyes forward. Remember, it's just like the single kettlebell clean and jerk. It's done primarily with the legs. The arms are just locking out once those bells are floated up over your head. So it's important in the jerk to have good functional range of motion in your overhead extension. So with the jerk, again, it's that slight drop of the hip, slight bend in the knee. You're going to explosively come out of that. It's going to float both of those kettlebells over your head. Once it's floated over your head, you're going to then drop your hips underneath the kettlebell and lock those arms out. Once they're locked out, then you're going to fully lock out the lower body, and then you're going to come down and continue.
So you're going to be combining the hinge, that extension. As you finish that extension, you're going to get into the clean. Once you get into the rack position, then you're going to press the bell. So there's a lot of moving parts here. It's a fantastic exercise for building posterior strength, shoulder strength, grip strength, and basically your entire core will benefit from this movement. So there's a number of ways that we can regress or progress it, but the main thing here is to understand with the clean, that is a lower body exercise. So even though we're finishing with the upper body, it's primarily standing up tall as quickly as possible. With the press, maintaining as much tension as possible. You're going to be alternating back and forth from left hand to right hand. The idea here is we want to make sure that we are using a loose enough grip that the bell can rotate freely within the hand so that it can land nicely in that rack position. So the first thing we want to make sure we avoid at all costs is a slammed forearm. So that means the bell is gonna keep that vertical path, and as it comes around, the end of the bell is never gonna be pointing vertical. It's always gonna be pointing somewhat down. So that way, as it wraps around the forearm, it'll sit nicely between the bicep and your forearm. We wanna maintain a nice, solid trunk as we're doing this, so we don't wanna flex under the pressure. And as we pull up, remember, this is a lower body exercise.
The stepping foot is going to be the foot that is going to be loaded. It's going to cross in front and over the trail foot. So my right foot would step in front and over to the lateral side of my left foot, or my left foot would step in front and over to the lateral side of my right foot. With the stepping foot, again, you want to load the stepping foot 80% or more. And then in that stepping foot, you want to try to load the heel of that stepping foot. The more you can load the heel, right, the more it might mitigate the range of motion, but the more it will actually create more strength for your hips in all of these different lunge positions. Whether you're doing it with the right or you're doing it with the left, think about swinging that kettlebell up with just a little bit more force than would be needed for a clean. And just like the clean, you're going to actually try to start pulling that kettlebell towards your torso. Once it's pulled towards your torso, that's going to accelerate the bell up over your head. And about 75% up on that kettlebell snatch, you're going to start to actually insert your hand into the kettlebell and grip the handle, and then it will slowly slide back into that overhead extension. So think about your wrist, elbow, ear, shoulder, hip, knee, and ankle all being in one perfectly straight line once you're stacked in that top position of the snatch. And from there, you're going to cast the kettlebell down and swing it through and then switch sides.